Good evening, and welcome to the Boys and Girls Club of Mcallen's Youth Voice Project's Mcallen Mayoral Candidate Forum. We are so excited to have all of you out here on our virtual stream, as well as all of the teens behind me and our Boys and Girls Club of Mcallen Board of Directors. But especially, I want to thank our candidates for joining us here together live. We're excited to have you guys on Facebook and on YouTube. And don't forget to share this link, of course, after the end of this forum. I want to tell you a little bit about the Boys and Girls Club of Mcallen. For over 50 years, the Boys and Girls Club of Mcallen has raised up productive citizens. Specifically in today's forum, we're going to be highlighting some of our Youth Advisory Council members. They have researched questions, they've polled their friends, and they've studied hard to ask relevant questions to all of our candidates. We're excited that you're here with us today live, as well as here in person. If you want more information about the Boys and Girls Club of Mcallen, please visit us at our website at www.bgcmcallen.net. And now we will begin. I'm going to go ahead and welcome Jose Alvarez, one of our Youth Advisory Council members.
Good evening. Welcome to the Mcallen residents and mayor candidates to the first Organizing for Our Futures Youth-led Candidate Forum brought to you by the Boys and Girls Club of Mcallen Youth. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jose Alvarez. I am 14 years old. I have been junior of the year for the club for 4 years, and I have been a club member for 6 years. This town hall was organized by the Youth Advisory Committee, Boys and Girls Club of Mcallen, and youth all across the city. The mission of the Boys and Girls Club is to enable all young people, especially those who need the club the most, to reach their full potential as productive, caring, responsible citizens. The Youth Advisory Committee is made up of teens ranging from 13 to 17 years old. The goal of YAC is for a consistent group of the same youth to have extended participation to ensure continuity and development of leadership skills and community engagement. I'd like to introduce our two MCs. Jayla Sinclair, she's 18 years old, is a senior at Nicky Rowe High School, and is the president of the Youth Advisory Committee. Our second MC is Abigail Castillo. She's 18 years old, attends Pioneer High School as a senior, and is the vice president of YAC.
Thank you, Jose. Good evening. My name is Abigail Castillo, and to my left is Jayla Sinclair. We'll be your moderators for tonight. I'll begin by explaining the format of tonight's event. Questions will be asked by audience members composed of Boys and Girls Club Mcallen club members and local Mcallen youth.
Candidates will first answer in alphabetical order and then in descending order after that.
Each candidate will get 1 minute to answer the question, and we have timekeepers who will let them know about the time remaining.
We'll begin with the 1-minute introduction by each candidate.
Mr. Otto Brand, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I appreciate you all allowing us to be here tonight. I want to tell you, my first experience with the Boys Club was back when Herb Barnett, who was a retired coach, came to my dad and said, we need a place for boys. They found a building next to the old stadium. And my first experience with Boys Club was my father telling me that they needed table games, and he took my ping pong table and my pool table. I've gotten over that over the last 40, 50 years, and y'all have certainly come a long way since then. But, you know, everyone knows that the future is not so much up here, but sitting out there. And the investment that's needed in your future is always going to be great, especially now more so than ever. And I think the city needs to be a part of that. And they are. And they need to be continue to that and support that. Thank you all for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Brand. Mr. Fadek, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so thank you for having us. I walked into this facility and it seemed like a coming home week for me. I have blood, sweat, and tears in every one of those wooden boards in that gym next door. That was my very first experience playing on a sports team, was on that court playing with my best friends on the basketball team. It instilled a lifelong love of team sports, of working hard, of doing everything for your friends, for your teammates, everything that goes into working for another. We are in this race. I personally am in this race really so much for what is out here in this community, for the future of our society, for the city of Mcallen. So much was here when I born and raised, came through and developed in the city of McAllen. I want to do what is best for those that are now being born and raised and have their futures in McAllen.
Thank you, Mr. Falik. Dr. Rasheed, you're up next.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Boys and Girls Club of Mcallen, for this exciting opportunity to be among you and talk about the future of our children and our beautiful city of Mcallen. I am Dr. Shahid Rasheed, running for the mayor of Mcallen. I'm a physician, a public health expert, and a businessman. I received my training and education at Johns Hopkins University and the University of Texas Medical School at Houston. I'm a family man and I have 6 kids. As a father and a physician, I understand how important it is to take care of, protect, and educate you. The city leadership has a huge responsibility and influence on children's lives and well-being. Yet many politicians and leaders tend not to be aware that they too can and must help ensure that the children's rights are taken into account. It's time. We need a new leadership with fresh vision to create opportunities and environment for you to excel and become the most successful citizens and the leaders of this world. And it's the time, that's the reason why I'm running for the mayor of Mcallen.
Thank you, Dr. Rasheed. Mr. Villalobos, you're up next.
Thank you, and thanks for the invite. You know, I'm here and I see you all, especially the young kids. And I remember growing up, we had the Boys and Girls Club, probably a fraction of this. But you know what it did? It built camaraderie. It kept you out of the streets. It made you learn some things that were important and valuable in life. So I'm glad to be here with you all. I've been a lawyer for 25 years, a businessman, and representing different entities. I'm running because I'm very knowledgeable of the stuff we do here in the city, and I want to be part of that. I want to see that we keep on improving McAllen. McAllen is pretty good, but it can be better. So I hope you all, I just saw some of your questions and they're very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mrs. Whitaker, you're next.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you all this evening. Thank you for the invite. My years with the McAllen Boys and Girls Clubs goes way back. I was a member for 8 years here at the McAllen Boys and Girls Club. What gave me the most pleasure was that I would come in here and I would play basketball with the kids. I brought my children to play basketball, and actually that's Coach Chuy Hinojosa was my son's basketball coach, if you can imagine how long ago that was. But it was my pleasure. I've been involved in many public organizations in the city of McAllen, nonprofits, and I've enjoyed every single bit of it. That's what makes McAllen. I've invested myself in all of those nonprofits. I've invested myself in the city for the last 8 years, and I continue, and I want to continue to give back to the city of McAllen and make a difference. So today I ask for your vote and I ask for your support, because I feel that I have given back to the city more than anybody else all the different years that we've had here together. But most of all, because I want to see McAllen to continue to grow, be a better place for you all to live in. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. We will begin with our questions from the audience, and we'll begin with Derek Lepe. He is 15 years old and attends Memorial High School.
On March 2nd, 2021, Governor Greg Abbott issued an executive order lifting the mask mandate in Texas and increasing the capacity of all businesses and facilities in the state to 100%. Mayor Darling decided to keep COVID-19 safety protocols in place. If you become mayor, what safety protocols will you follow or get rid of?
Mr. Brand, we'll start with you.
You know, I think if you've read the papers, the number has declined, and also at the same time that people are relaxing the protocol. I think there's other alternatives to the mask and distancing that certainly has worked well for us. And you know, we've got to get the balance between the safety of our citizens and at the same time getting back to normal with business. How will you accomplish that? There are several ways to do that. We have pandemic money that's coming that I have said it needs to be spent in the private sector solely, and provide the mask, the technology that's available that schools are already starting to look into and purchase, in order to make it a free environment where masking and distancing is not required, and that's what I would pursue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Falik, you're up next.
Yeah, so first off, we're going to follow the science. The CDC is issuing guidelines. We're going to make sure that we are abiding what the CDC guidance is setting out for our society. We also do need to understand what is happening in our own community, and we're going to make sure that those susceptible populations are protected. It is crucial that we make sure that vaccine availability is spread throughout our community. We need to understand if there are challenges from different contingents of our society that are having challenges with accessing the vaccines, and we need to make sure that we are reaching out to those susceptible populations to ensure that each of those communities have as much access to vaccines as absolutely possible. We need to get those vaccines spread out. We need to follow the guidelines, but ultimately we need to make sure that everybody is vaccinated and that we are pushing forward as we can, when we can, but following the science.
Thank you, Mr. Falik. Dr. Rasheed, you're next.
In this pandemic, the most important thing is that we have to follow the CDC guidelines. CDC guidelines are specific to that how we could be able to contain this disease. And just to let you know that Taiwan is one of those examples that they just follow the one mandate that the facial mask, frequent washing your hands, and having a social distancing. That has marked such a great difference in their lives that there were only 8 people died during this pandemic. And the person who did it was the Dr. Chen, who was trained at the Johns Hopkins University, the same place where I was trained. At this time, we are not going to take away the face mandate or frequent washing or social distancing, because right now we are still in the middle of getting the vaccination done. Until the vaccination is done to like 60 to 70% of the population is not immunized, we will not be able to relax any of those mandates, because this is very important. Your lives are important, and these little things can make a huge difference.
Thank you, Dr. Rasheed. Mr. Villalobos, you're up next.
Okay, and I guess this is where the experience kind of gets in the way, because at the very end, the question is, if you become mayor, what will you do or stop doing? And the answer is, the mayor has no authority. Once the governor has lifted the emergency orders and everything, the mayor, even the county judge, no longer has authority. So even if, for example, I get elected, I cannot tell any of y'all that you better wear your mask. I would love to. I think the opening was a little premature, but it happened. So I think we still need to do as best as we can. Very strongly suggest that everybody wear their mask, wash their hands and everything. But we have absolutely no authority.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mrs. Whitaker, you're next.
I would agree with the Mayor of Mcallen that he did continue the protocol for all of us to use our masks. I believe more than anything else that we need to respect each other. I had a gentleman come by my campaign office the other day and asked me why. Why do I have to? And I said, because you need to respect others, and others need to respect you. So if you don't want to wear your mask, it shows that maybe you're disrespecting. We don't know if you've been vaccinated. We don't know because we don't have, a tag that says I've been vaccinated. So it's just being cautious. It's just being polite, and it's being responsible. So the more of us that do wear our mask and follow some type of protocol, it only helps us to decrease the numbers that we have had in the South Texas. Most of you know that for a long time we were the hot spot, and it did not look good for the city of Mcallen or our surrounding cities. So if we continue to follow, at least be an example for others, you know what, it'll help. And that's what we need to do, show others that we are stronger than those who don't want to, and make a difference for our city and continue to keep our numbers low. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. Our next question is from Dylan Moreno. He is 18 years old and attends rural high school.
Hi, good evening. I'm glad that y'all are here today. So my question is, in 2019, the city of McAllen spent more than $106,000 on fixing their drainage system. But in 2020, McAllen neighborhoods like Cornell Avenue were forced to leave their houses due to a flood that was supposed to be prevented. If given the chance to be Mayor McAllen, will you be updating their drainage system before another hurricane season arrives and forces citizens to leave their homes again? Thank you.
Mr.
Yeah.
Falik, we'll start with you.
Yeah, good question. It's an important question. Thankfully, there was a bond election passed not that long ago, and drainage was an important factor in that bond election. Money was assigned. There are 30-plus different bond projects being finalized by the city of McAllen currently. But it is important and incumbent upon the city to, once those drainage projects are complete, to circle back among all the citizens to find out what areas still need so much attention, so much additional work. It is crucial that we find where we have weaknesses so that we can build in additional infrastructure to solve problems throughout the city. I know here along Galveston, South 23rd, there have been continual problems. We need to make sure both north, south, east, west, that every area of the city is being addressed equally. We need to make sure that the resources of the city of McAllen are being applied equally, fairly, transparently among the various contingents in here in McAllen.
Thank you, Mr. Falik. Dr. Rasheed, you're up next.
Thank you. I am the only candidate among all of the mayoral candidates here who is not the part of the city administration. And it is very unfortunate to see that it's been going on for so many years that this drainage system could not be addressed. All of them have been in the offices over 20 plus years, and unfortunately this thing has not been addressed. This is of a paramount importance. And we have the resources, we have the money, we have a budget of $425,000, $425 million, and we could have been easily fixed that thing, but that didn't happen. But if I've been given an opportunity, that will be my topmost priority to make sure that our areas are taken care of, and the people, they don't have to leave their homes and run away whenever there is a hurricane or any of the natural disasters are hitting the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rasheed. Mr. Villalobos, you're up next.
In 2018, we had, I think, 16 inches of water. I remember being in that subdivision in Cornell. Unfortunately, it didn't flood, but we had pumps there. And we talked to the people there in Cornell. Subsequent to that, we had town halls, and we told them, look, this is what we're doing. It flooded bad when Hurricane Hannah came, and it stopped there. It was a very slow-moving hurricane. Unfortunately for Cornell, water from the park was draining to their subdivision, water from a new subdivision draining down to their subdivision, and construction from where draining to their subdivision. But since 2018, we have improved from 2,800 homes that flooded to only 200 with those 20 million in bonds that we did. The issue here in Cornell is being addressed right now. So flood itself, I think we're doing very well compared to the way we were 2 years ago. There's projects that have to be completed, and they will be.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mrs. Whitaker, you're up next.
Sure. The last 2 years, your first year, we did 23 drainage projects in the city of McAllen. This current year, we're doing 38 drainage projects. And so because of that, we are already tackling the situation. We're already tackling the problem. What has happened, our city has grown faster than we can keep up with it. Most of you, maybe we're not, well, most of us have been born here, but now that I've been out in the city for the last couple of weeks, there are more places, more homes than ever that I've ever seen. And coming from South McAllen to North McAllen, it's grown tremendously. And we are aware of all of the drainage problems that we have had, but we have slowly begun to rectify all of the problems, and we have been visiting with them. We do have more projects in our budget for next year, and so we are aware, we are trying very, very hard. And not only that, also what happened is we ETJ'd a lot of properties within the city of McAllen, and those ETJ areas were not planned as strategically as we wanted them to be. So we are now going back to rectifying those and to correcting all of the problems with those ETJ properties so that we don't have the drainage problem that we've had in the last couple of years.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker.
Sure.
Mr.
Thank
Brown,
you.
you're up next.
You know, this is an issue, it has not been just an issue this election, it was one of the last election as well. The city did take heart to what was visited last time. They have a good start. But I will tell you the thing, if you look at the structures, the infrastructure they're putting in now, all of it's great, but increasing retention does not take care of a hurricane. They've talked about 12, 15, 15, 18-inch rains. Yeah, the worst one we've ever had is Beulah, which was 25 to 30 inches. This city will not take a 25 to 30-inch rain, all of our hurricane. The outlets to this city have not been enlarged. All that's been done is internal plumbing and additional retaining, but nothing has been done to increase the outflow to this city. Now, as a farmer, that's the first thing you look at. You eyeball, when you look at a piece of property, you know what you have to do. That is where we are right now. We've got great projects going on, but they're not going to, we'll have no results until we increase the outlets.
Thank you, Mr. Brand. Our next question is coming from Emmanuel Cantu. He is 17 years old and attends Memorial High School.
According to WalletHub.com, the city of Mcallen was tracked as the #1 obese city in the Rio Grande Valley. It also often comes out on top as one of the areas with the largest obesity problem in the nation. If you were elected mayor, what would you do to fix or improve this issue?
Thank you. It's my turn, right?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much. Mcallen is one of the #1 city in the nation which has the highest revenue from the sales trade, and it's the billions of dollars worth of industry. And it's very unfortunate to see that we are one of the poorest city in the nation, with the conditions like obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and cancer, and so many other diseases which are prevalent in our community. And that is the result of it's a direct correlation between the unemployment and the poverty. We have an unemployment which is almost twice the national average, as well as the poverty, which is also like 26%, twice the national average. What we have to do is that we have to reverse that this vicious cycle. We are going to invest into our the diversification of our economic profile so that we could be able to have to stop that wealth drain that is happening, and we will be able to educate our youth to create more skilled workforce through the technical and the vocational training, and that's going to help us to improve the vicious cycle of these chronic diseases.
Thank you, Dr. Rasheed. Mr. Villalobos, you're up next.
Genetics, education, and poverty, I think that's very important because those are probably the main factors regarding obesity. Now, what do we need to do? A lot of it is self-responsibility. I mean, we ourselves have to get out. Look, we have walking trails, we have parks, we have a lot of different things, but self-responsibility comes first because we can keep on expanding the trails, the biking trails, the parks, create even more things, but at the very end, it is up to you all. It is up. We can only, like I said, we can suggest, look, do this, exercise more. We have I think we won first place again on
It's Time Texas.
It's Time Texas, but it's still not enough. We need to educate. Genetics, you can't change, but education and poverty, we can, and there's a lot of responsibility to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mrs. Whitaker, you're up next.
Unfortunately, most of you know that I have a program called Let's Move. If you're on my Facebook, you've seen it for the last 3 or 4 years. So it's Move Mcallen and Let's Keep Moving. And so, but most of this, of course, doesn't really correlate with us. It correlates more with the school districts. You know, when we were younger, we had PE classes, and we actually had to do jumping jacks. We actually had to do push-ups, and we actually had to run a mile before the end of the year because we were taught how to move and how to exercise. Now we have options, and so we have to switch over out of PE. We go to other areas and they don't include exercise. So I think that's part of what has happened to our society, that we are letting it go and not bringing it back. In terms of food, the same thing happens with some of the school districts. The entire valley, of course, most of you know, we get free lunches. And so some of those lunches, if you'll notice those lunches in the school, they're not the healthiest. We're now getting better at it. There's apples on there, and most of the apples go in the trash can, which is very, very sad. So we just need to redirect our thoughts, redirect how we help the children, and of course, us ourselves are the example. So let's move, Mcallen.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. Mr. Brand, you're up next.
Well, you know, I do think it's not just solely the city's responsibility to solve this problem, and they can't by themselves. It is a joint effort on the part of private and public and community groups to be sensitive to what some alternatives might be in addition to what we're doing, I think the parks and the hiking trails are great, but there might be other alternatives that are positive, moving in a positive direction. I think the city it's always going to be a partnership. It's never going to be their sole responsibility or for them to solve on their own. It will be something that we do collectively as a community, and what parts each group can bring to the table that accomplishes this goal that we all know is a challenge for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brand. Mr. Fallick, you're up next.
Yeah, really, what a great question here. As we're at the Boys and Girls Club, we've got great facilities here. The point of this facility is to build relationships, but also to get out, to exercise, to be in a communal space where we can all be healthier, where we can form those relationships and be productive members of society, understand what it is to reach out to people, to be healthier. Got this facility, we've got the Boys and Girls Club facility on the north side of town. So much of what I have talked about is building business, and the reason that we're going to continue to focus on building business is that we need money in the city coffers so that we can continue to build the quality of life components, to increase parks, hike and bike trails, to make sure that we've got those athletic facilities on the north side, on the south side, east, west, where everybody all around the different areas of town have the same access to quality facilities to lead healthy lives.
Thank you, Mr. Fallick. Our next question is from Samantha Cantu. She is 18 years old and attends Palmview High School.
Hello, good afternoon. Because of COVID, students in Mcallen have had to adapt an education system that looks very different. Us students have had so many things to go in our personal and home lives that oftentimes it is hard to focus during virtual learning. If you were elected mayor, what would you do to help Mcallen ISD and us as students to get back to school safely? Thank you.
Mr. Villalobos, we'll start with you.
Okay, well, first of all, we kind of need a split responsibilities. The city, even though we enter into interlocal agreements, try to assist the schools wherever we can, a lot of it is totally separate. The city commission fielded water, sewer, street, fire protection, police protection, parks. Education, or how to get you back safely, that's going to be more the state, TEA, and the school district itself. What can we do? Whatever we can. Anything that we can assist with, I know Veronica, myself, anybody in the city commission will do it. Now, what is that? We're not sure, because we need to be informed by the school district, because we can only assist. We cannot take the lead. Every entity has its governance. So that, in a sense, the leaders there would be your school board members.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mrs. Whitaker, you're up next.
Prior to COVID, we started a partnership with the school district. We were meeting with them at least every 2 or 3 months, and we actually had joint meetings. And we would bring up all the different problems and the solutions that we had within the city. And of course, we, tried to partnership with them exactly, so that we would only benefit the children. Most of you know now that all of the parks that are in the schools, in front of the schools, belong now to the city. So we've improved them, tremendously, and now they have more running trails. They have, football fields or small football fields, track fields. They have more ability to be able to do more exercise and to get out and to get going. But in terms of the educational side, I think it's been very, very difficult for everybody, whether you're working virtually, whether you're going to school virtually, and even for the teachers, because they had to keep their own children at home and make sure that they were educated alongside and keep them in line, and also keep their classrooms in line. So it was a very, very difficult time. So I applaud each and every one of them for doing what they've done for the last year. And I know that some of the schools have opened back up. And I hope that we do not have to go backwards, that we continue to move forward for the kids, for the families, and for the parents. Most of all, for the teachers and the principals and the educators within.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. Mr. Brand, you're up next.
Well, I agree with several things that have been said as far as the responsibility. It is more of a partnership. It is, I do like the idea of trying to, the city and the school work more closely together on a more regular basis to address issues that come up that the city may not be aware of, or vice versa, the school not be aware of. But again, I'm going to go back to the protocol that I know that that I've used for the last year in all the organizations and I've seen, I know Mcallen Independent School District is working on solutions right now that are more broad, that are more complete solutions. And again, in technology that's out there, would love to have the opportunity to share that with you. I've shared it with the school as well. Ultraviolet light, hydrogen peroxide in the air to kill 99.99%, which has already been approved by NASA and Food and Drug. Those are some solutions that I think free us up in order to get back to a normalcy in the school systems and the city as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Brand. Mr. Fallick, you're up next.
Yeah, so thank goodness for the city of Mcallen that we have a quality school board and an excellent superintendent who recently won Superintendent of the Year. As the school district goes, the city of Mcallen is going to be able to have success. One of the first things in recruiting companies is always, what is the quality of our school district? We need to make sure that that school district is strong. Thankfully, we do have a strong school district. If I am elected mayor, though, we are going to build stronger ties with MISD as well as our other educational partners. But with MISD specifically, we're not going to wait for every several months to have a joint meeting. We're going to have a city representative at every single school board meeting so that the city knows what the school district is doing as they're doing it. The school district knows what the city is doing as we are doing it. We can leverage the assets and the responsibilities and capacities that each of us have for the benefit, the maximum benefit of all those living in the city. We need to leverage the assets that we have to best effect for everybody that lives here in town.
Thank you, Mr. Fallick. Dr. Rasheed, you're up next.
Thank you. Just to clarify here that this is the responsibility of the city to make sure that we provide the welfare and the safety and the environment to our citizens. And it is not that only the roads and the sewage or the water. We spend about 20% of our budget on that very specific area. How do we have the welfare of our city? Besides this thing, that coming to the point where how we could be able to get the children back to the school. At this time, since the children are least prone to the COVID infections, so that's one of the good thing we have. But at this time, the city has done its job. They have vaccinated the teachers, and they are following the CDC guideline. This is the time that the children can go back to the school in a very safe manner. And I think that this is being away from the school has taken a big toll on the children. They were under a lot of stress, not only the economic burden what their parents were facing, but they had the anxiety, depression, and so many other mental health conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rasheed. Our next question is coming from Leslie Flores. She is 16 years old and attends IDEA Mcallen High School.
A researcher by the name of Christie discovered that the majority of children in the RGV, 68% to be exact, live in a poverty area. These children experience under-resourced school and lack equal opportunities in life. More importantly, research has found that poverty negatively affects the mental wellness of children that live in poverty at much higher rates than those who don't. As a future mayor, what will you do to make sure that children who live in poverty still have equal in education and life in general? Thank you.
Mrs. Whitaker, we'll start with you.
As a former educator in the Mcallen ISD School District, of course, I can tell you all firsthand that really what is most important part of all of this is that it's the teacher. It's the person who's in front of you from kinder through 8th grade. That person has to be your role model. That person has to be the one that says, you know what, you can do it. You know it, you're smart, let's do it, we do it together. More than anything else, I think we need to do away with more STAR testing, making sure they're prepared for that, and go back to old-fashioned teaching, to go back to actually doing 1+1, actually doing. They're going back to cursive now, I understand. There's so many things that we did. We read books. We actually read to each other. We actually got to read stories and have questions at the end of stories as we were growing up in the school system. So important for us to be able to go back to what education was all about 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and it's not old-fashioned. It worked. We need to go back and start all over again if I was there. In order for us as a city, I think we just examples and let them know that we also, we made a difference. We're here to help them.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. Mr. Brand, you're up next.
When you talk about the environment, for these kids. I know the studies 20, 30, 40. That's how affordable homes got started in Mcallen, because the school system realized that the home environment was very important to the success of the and started affordable homes, Mcallen affordable homes, in order to try to extend, and driven by the school, the studies that were done by the school. I think that program still is effective. Now been incorporated to South Texas, not just Mcallen. That needs got a lot of new development that's opened up for folks below poverty level. We've got 25% of our city below poverty level, 1 in 4 people. But the other thing is I feel like the smart and the internet is really important. I said part of that project. It needs to get money that really develop citywide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Fallick, you're up next.
Yeah, so this question goes to the core of why I jumped into the race to be the next mayor of Mcallen. When I moved back to town, I started creating new businesses. I've created hundreds and hundreds of jobs here in the city of Mcallen. My main focus is to increase the opportunity and the prospects of our youth as they move through the education system and into the workforce. I will be out there recruiting new companies to town, new capital investment into town, broaden out the tax base, but increase the number of jobs and opportunities for those that will be joining the workforce. We need to be finding the new tech companies that are going to be changing the world. We need to find those companies and recruit them to town to change the prospects for our youth. There is no reason with a young bilingual workforce, there's no reason that we should be 40% behind the rest of the state in terms of per capita income. We need to increase the opportunities that are here in the city of Mcallen for the best interests of the city, the students, all the citizens of Mcallen, so that everybody can live a higher quality of life.
Thank you, Mr. Fallick. Dr. Rasheed, you're up next.
What I know is that it is as mandated in the UNICEF Charter that the child-friendly city, that's what I'll be focusing on, and that will be more inclusive and healthier and greener for all the children, and that is going to provide the equal quality education and the places where they could be able to socialize and they could be able to play and could be able to have the interaction with the other the friends. It is unfortunate that during the pandemic it has so adversely affected the children that they were not able to go have that social interaction with their colleagues, and that has resulted in the conditions which were like the mental conditions like the anxiety, depression, and also the cases of the suicide. So my objective will be that we will provide the children a place which is accessible to each one of them, and it should be the top quality in the nation.
Thank you, Dr. Rasheed. Mr. Villalobos, you're up next.
Well, this one pretty much hits home. Growing up, family of 7, I remember going hungry, going to bed. Didn't have indoor plumbing till I was a freshman in high school, so I know how it affects. But you know what you need? Not just assistance from the government, first of all, self-responsibility, family support, and then the great equalizer, which is education. So when I become mayor, this is something that's dear to my heart. What can I do? I can do as much as possible, as much as I'm authorized, and I'm talking with interlocals with the school district, or STC, UTRGV, A&M. That is what we can do. We're limited, like I said, a lot of the times, how we spend money. We cannot spend it on education, but we can do it through nonprofits and other organizations. So that's one of the things I would love to do as your mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Our last question is from Imani Zamora. She is 18 years old and attends rural high school.
As an anticipated mayor, what is the biggest impact you would like to have in this community?
Mr. Brown, we'll start with you.
Well, I could talk for a long time about flooding. A lot of people say I'm a one-topic guy, but the city of Mcallen's got a lot of things. Flooding is one of the things that I think is a long-term and I'd like to see that resolved. But I want to tell you what, that's on the infrastructure side, but I want to tell you on the hearts and minds side of what I want to be left, if I have anything y'all could remember, and that is that you elected someone who is going to be transparent, open, honest, and trustworthy, because I think that's the biggest problem we have with people in the private sector when it comes to government. I've never witnessed so much cynicism and dislike for and disdain for government and the lack of trust. And I think that's something that any one of us would want to have. That's what I want. That's when it comes to hearts and minds, that's what I really want to leave as any kind of a legacy in a term that I would have as mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Fallick, you're up next.
So the biggest impact I want to have is just to make people's lives better. When people look back at what my term as mayor left for people, is that their lives were made better after my term in office. We're going to make sure that the city functions work well, the roads, the drainage, the street lights, police and fire, parks, everything that makes it worth living here. We're going to make sure all that works. But it is important to inspire the populace, to make certain that they have an outlook for the future where they understand that they can do better here, that they have outlooks in life where they will end up better than where their parents were, and that their kids will have a better opportunity for success than they did. That we will continue to build systems where opportunities build on themselves, where we have new jobs, new industries, new possibilities, that our lives at each generational level in Mcallen are better than what came before.
Thank you, Mr. Fallick. Dr. Rasheed, you're up next.
Thank you. The city of Mcallen unfortunately has an unemployment rate of almost unemployment and the poverty, which is twice than the national average, as well as the per capita income is half than the national average. It is very unfortunate. My focus will be that to work on the avenues to reduce the unemployment and the poverty and bring the city into that economic state that where everyone could realize their future in the city. And that how we are going to do that, first and foremost, that we'll work on developing a robust public health task force which is going to address our chronic conditions like obesity, diabetes, and many other conditions. We are going to create the new jobs, develop this skilled workforce. We are going to diversify our economic profile to that of our medical, technological, and the manufacturing industry, so that we could be able to have that wealth which is being drained should be able to stay here in our community, so that we could be able to realize all those things that we could for your and our future and for the future of our generations.
Thank you, Dr. Rasheed. Mr. Villalobos, you're up next.
I remember when they were finishing up the ladies' softball fields, and they were not looking as nice as the boys' fields. They were going to put chain link fence. I remember during the meeting I said, hey, hold on. Why are we doing that? Hey, what I'm looking for is equality. Equality between genders, equality between everything. Equality between the North and the South. And what that means is that we got to pick up the South. We got to help them out. The South is a very important section. It's the older part of town. But because it's older, the tax base is lower, so the North subsidizes. Of course, then you flip it, the commercial area, the South has a higher tax base than the North side. But look, when it comes to commercial, it's different. When it comes to residential, that impacts you and I and everybody immediately. So that's one of the things I want to do. I just want equality.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mrs. Whitaker, you're up next.
As the mayor of Mcallen, I want to continue to make a difference. I want to have continuity, and I want to continue with all the projects that we've had in place. I want to continue with the same type of leadership that we've had by Mayor Darling for the last 44 years. I want to know that where we're headed is in the right direction, not for us, but for you, because you are our citizens and you are our taxpayers. You are the ones who make our city grow. You're the ones who make our city great, and you're the ones who we need to listen to. And that, of course, is the most important. It doesn't matter whether you have a pothole in your alley. We need to answer your question. We need to answer your phone call, and we need to be able to respond. We get phone calls every single day, and a lot of times they tell us, I sent it to 311, I called, no one's paid attention to me, no one's answered my question. But we are here as leaders to be open, to be able to answer your questions, to be able to listen to each and every one of you. Each and every one of you has a different problem and a different question and a different want. So we need to be accessible, each and every one of you, be able to solve so that we can continue to keep Mcallen moving and to be better and to always be the leader for the Rio Grande Valley as we have been for years.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. Thank you, candidates, for all your answers. To close, we'd like to ask one final question. In 30 seconds, can you describe what your ideal city of Mcallen would look like in 10 years? Mr. Fallick, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so really just progress, right? Where everything is a little bit better, where we've got collaboration between our school district, where we've got the universities engaged, where we've got new progress for outreach to every single segment of our society, where we've had the roads issue addressed, the lights addressed, but new opportunities at every corner, new quality of life components at every quarter for the youth, for our families, for everybody, north, south, east, west, for everybody that is doing well, that is living in our city.
Thank you, Mr. Fallick. Dr. Rasheed, you're up next.
Thank you. As your mayor, my ultimate goal will be to make Mcallen the most child-friendly city to raise a family. I want it to be a safer city that is more inclusive, healthier, and greener than ever before. A city that offers quality education where friends can meet and play in a clean and safe environment. A city with a strong and stable economy with the lowest rate of unemployment, poverty, and disease. But in order to reach these goals, we need a new leadership that can light the way. Only new leadership can offer not only a vision of a better tomorrow, but the skills to make it happen. Together, we can build a brighter and a prosperous future for us and for our children and for our futures, and we'll leave behind a legacy that we can be proud of.
Thank you, Dr. Rasheed. Mr. Villalobos, you're up next.
Okay, well, we collaborate all the time with all the separate entities, and we always do. We keep on doing. We work on flooding all the time, and no matter what we do, at the very end, we need to keep on continuing. So what do I want to see in 10 years? I want to see all the projects that we have done come to fruition and keep on working to make our community one of the safest in the whole country, which we know we are, and hopefully one of the best places to live in the great state of Texas. I think we already are. We just got to keep on going.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mrs. Whitaker, you're up next.
I would like to see Mcallen become a destination, a place where people want to say, oh, we're going to Mcallen, Texas for our vacation. We've invested in Quinta Mazatlan. We've invested in our museums. We have invested in our hike and bike trails, in our city, in our mall, in our roadways. We have invested in a lot of during the activities. We now have, of course, the holiday parade, which is the #1 holiday parade in the United States. We've invested in the dinosaurs. In so many ways, we have really brought Mcallen up to a whole new area to visit. And so I would really like for people to say, I'm going to Mcallen, because it is the heart of the Rio Grande Valley, and I want to visit.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. Mr. Brandt, you're up next.
You know, I'm not interested in the city being bigger and better as far as size. What I would hope to accomplish and see is that we develop a safe community. We develop a quality of life. It doesn't always come in size. Quality of life comes in all different packages. But those are two things that I would hope that would be accomplished and continue to be.
Thank you, candidates, for being here and viewers for tuning in. Don't forget that Election Day is May 1st. If you would like to know more about the club or the summer camp that the club will offer, you can follow us on Facebook at BGC Mcallen, or you can go to our website, www.bgcmcallen.net, to register. Again, thank you everyone for being here and have a great evening.
Thank you so much again for being here. I know that several candidates need to leave very quickly, so if you guys don't mind taking a picture just really quickly right here in the backdrop, and then I know Mr. Brand, you need to go. Thank you so much again. Teens, congratulations, incredible job. Thank you.